So I think I've been training in acting now for around 4 years, which is wild and a lot of time. But that means that I've attended a lot of different classes and I've had a lot of different acting book recommendations, and some of them I now own. So I thought I'd talk through the main kind of acting book recommendations that I've got. I've not read all of them, but some of these books are just ones that you can kind of dip in and out of because it might be a bit intense to read it all in one go. And if you want to support my acting journey and see where I go in acting, then please do subscribe. I'm really trying to grow this channel. And now let's talk about some of my acting books. So the first book that I want to talk about is Hamilton and Me, and this is kind of a rehearsal journal through rehearsing the role of Aaron Burr in Hamilton, which I think makes it more of an easy read than one of those acting books that's just like a list of techniques described in quite technical detail. And I always, when I was starting out with classes especially, wrote quite detailed notes about my acting process and about things I was learning. So I find it really interesting to read other people's acting notes. Another book that I don't have a physical copy of, but I did listen to on an audiobook, was, I think it's called An Actor's Life by Jenna Fischer, and my friend recommended it to me, and that's more about the industry and experiencing acting, like pursuing acting through the industry. It's more American based, but I think there's still a lot that you can take away from it, so that one's really interesting as well. And next, I feel like so many actors have these books, and that is the Uta Hagen books. I feel like nowadays it's more of a kind of practitioner that you look into if you're doing screen acting. From my experience, I could be wrong, but it's more about naturalistic acting. It's, I think, an extended kind of version of Stanislavski's techniques, if you don't know who Uta Hagen is. And I know so many people who own these books who just haven't read them, who have them on like a coffee table just to be like, oh, I'm an actor, or like have them on a bedside table. And I flicked through them a bit, and I think they're quite intense acting studies, so I think maybe it might be a bit difficult to read it all in one go, but I think it's just interesting to own. I feel like a proper actor because I have the books. I do love Uta Hagen's techniques and methods, so I think her books would be really good. And actually, in the comments of one of my videos, I was recommended to read Meisner's book, or to get Meisner's book, so I've got Meisner's book. I think also this is potentially quite a complex book to read and quite technical. But I would like to read it. I just think that sometimes you need to read stuff slowly or look into stuff slowly, because otherwise you can't take as much away from it. But I think I do love Meisner as a practitioner, and I would like to learn more. And the next book is a recommendation from a guest speaker who came to the youth theatre that I used to go to, because I used to go to Prime Youth Theatre but online, and I think they're based in Swindon. I think they still do classes as well, and it was a really great place to start my training, to build my confidence, to learn the foundations of acting. And this is a voice specific book called Finding Your Voice by Barbara Houseman, I think is how you say it, maybe. I don't know how you say her name, but I think this is a really interesting book that goes through quite a few different vocal exercises, and it's about the voice. I guess it's in the title, but I have actually read some of this book. I don't know if I maybe read all of it a while ago, but I think it's just really interesting to learn about different aspects of the voice. I think it's a bit intense to try and implement it all at once, but I think it's got some really interesting insights. And this book's called Impro, and it was actually recommended to me by my mum's friend, who knew that I was doing quite improvisation-based training at the television workshop, so thought this book would be interesting for me. So I think a lot of these books are just books that you can dip in and out of if you're like, I want to do a bit more Meisner today, I want to learn a bit more about the voice and voice exercises. These are just great resources to have rather than books that you read, because I think calling them books, obviously they are books, but that makes it feel like you have to read it all at once. But like a textbook, like you don't read a textbook all the way through at school, like you work through it with time. So these are just books that I think would be beneficial for me to have and to share around with other people I know. So these are the kind of books that I would like to look into over time and throughout my career and keep coming back to. And then the final book is also a recommendation I got from my youth theatre, and that is this book of sonnets, because it goes through all of the different sonnets, like breaks them down. It's got copies of all of the Shakespeare sonnets in here, and I just think that's really useful because sometimes it's nice to have a piece of Shakespearean text to perform for an audition that is just a standalone piece that you can create the context for, because I think sonnets are really interesting to explore and perform, and the fact that they are part of a bigger collective but also can stand on their own is just really interesting. And so just over my time at my youth theatre, I just grew to really love Shakespeare and the sonnets and find them just a really interesting way to explore classical texts. So I just love that I've got this book because I feel like it makes it so much more easier to access these kind of texts. So those are the main acting books I'd like to share with you today, and if you've read any of these and want to share your thoughts on them, or if you have any standout acting books that you'd like to recommend, or just anything you'd like to say, then please do leave me a comment, because I love reading the comments and I just find it really interesting. And thank you as well, as always, for all the support in the comments, because I'm really grateful for that, and I'm really grateful for everyone who watches these videos. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!